At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the Council of Great City Schools and Dr. Ray Hart.
Good evening, everyone. Just waiting for my camera to start. And Zoom is slow. Just thinking about it. But I understand that this evening we are, and you are interested in revisiting the conversation that we had last month regarding your proposed requests of the superintendent, and looking at having a conversation this evening about accepting the 8 proposed areas that you would like the superintendent to follow up on regarding um, your uh, your plans. And I'm not sure if you have those to share, and if not, I will be happy to share those. And then I believe all you would need to do at this point is entertain a motion to um, accept those and move it forward with the superintendent and the team. Um,
So that will have to happen at a different time because we can't entertain a motion right now,
Okay.
but we would like to have discussion about the 8 items
Okay.
now, and then we'll have them again later. We're going to need you to share the 8 items.
Okay. I'll be happy to. So on my screen are the 8 items, the first of which we recorded as, and hope, let me know if you are unable to see them. But the first of which we recorded as updated district staffing projections to support implementation. Number 2, creating a timeline that articulates early wins, benefits in year 0, year 1, etc., and a rationale. Number 3, the financial impact with comprehensive multi-year projections, including cost of renovations for each building. Number 4, identified attendance zones plus feeder patterns with rationale. Number 5, comprehensive transportation plan, including walkers plus busing students with rationale. Number 6, indication of how the plan will improve students' experiences with rationale. Number 7, addressing support for students facing the greatest challenges, i.e. African American students, economically disadvantaged students, students with special needs, and English language learners as examples. And then number 5, community-led engagement, outreach, and communication plan. And just a note for the board on the last element, which is community-led engagement, outreach, and communication plan. Just regarding the superintendent and the superintendent's scope. The superintendent obviously can create the plan, but just note that controlling the community and how the community provides feedback will not, is beyond the scope of the superintendent. So while the superintendent can create a plan, just know that the plan will give the district the opportunity to drive communications, et cetera. But it is not something that when you talk about the reactions or feedback from the community, the superintendent will have control over. Just want to make sure that's clear. And then happy to entertain any questions that you might have. If you want to have discussions about those 8 items.
Board members, do you have any questions?
I guess just in regard to what you shared about the last item, I'm curious to hear from my colleagues who felt strongly about that one. I would just appreciate a re-articulation of what we understand that to mean, because with that with that kind of caveat, I feel less clear.
Okay, so well, that was one that I kind of added on my list as a priority. I think that it's really important to me that as we're going through this process, what we haven't done well, we should be starting to do better moving forward. I think that what I see is that community feels very confused about this process, and I know there's been a lot of efforts to do more of engagement and work around educating people, but I don't know if the spaces that we are doing that is actually reaching everybody, right? So, 10 people that show up to a kickback or a community conversation isn't representative of the, 19,000 students that are in the district. So what is the overall plan of how we continue to communicate, how we continue to engage, and then how we actually utilize the community to be the drivers of that work? And then the second part to it, for me, when I suggested it, my thought process sat with when we closed schools in 2020, and brought students back, there was a district-wide effort that was spearheaded by community in how we reopened our schools and what that looks like. So that work, to me, is really valuable and important to this process of how we're going to execute said plan once we have a plan to vote on. How will it be executed, and how will we utilize community to be able to do that? Is that clear?
I'm going to say something back, and then you'll let me know. So one way of knowing, I'm trying to frame it through the lens of how will we know, like what will count as evidence or what will count as like meeting the expectation, right? We get this plan from this next iteration of the plan. How would we know that it met this expectation of community-led engagement, outreach, and communication plan? Would that look like there are details in this new plan where there are opportunities for community members to have leadership roles? Like, is that what you're talking about? The community-led
we could change
part?
the name of it.
I'm not asking to change the word. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that I understand what the words mean.
Yeah, so, I think that, you can call it whatever you want, but I do think that there should be some type of effort to loop in community when it comes to the execution of whatever plan we vote on in whatever time we do that. That's, to me, is most important, because I think when we continue to leave out the most valuable and important part of this equation, which are the students and families and critical stakeholders, then I don't know how we actually execute this efficiently. I think there's only so much that we all can do in the roles that we're tasked to do it in from the administration and the board side. There has to be the buy-in from the people and making sure that it can happen the way that we envision that it would happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I wanted to recall the message, the conversation we had last time about community-led, and I thought where we landed was that, because I didn't understand the semantics of the community-led piece, but I thought we landed that there was this need for community engagement, outreach, and a communication plan, and that it may not necessarily be community-led, because if it's community-led, then the community would have to be the leading force of this and not the administration, but that the administration would work to make sure that there's extensive communication, community engagement, outreach, and communication plan.
I mean, when I say it needs to be community-led, that's exactly what it needs to be. The community needs to be in the front, helping drive what we do. I think that there should be some type of plan of how you even communicate changes, because I don't know much, but I do know that the majority of the people in this district have been not paying attention to any of the things that have been happening over the past year and a half. So how are we going to even get that information when we start to make changes, or when changes are made? How will that be? So you're going to need some type of I can't get my words right. You're going to need some type of communication plan, in my opinion, like how we get that out. But I think that, like I said, the most important part to me is that the key stakeholders in this equation, the students, parents, teachers, all of the people who have really been coming and speaking, all the groups of people who have been coming and speaking, whether it's just a small amount of people, but they represent the people that we all are tasked to serve in our roles. So if they're not a part of the equation and how we execute that, and I look back, I mean, maybe we can, revisit how the all-in to reopen our schools process really worked for the district when we did that in 2020, 2021, because I do believe that it was really beneficial to have those people at the table helping to make sure that we can execute the things that we say that we need to execute. I don't know how much more I can say that there's value in that, and if that is not the direction that we are intending to move in this process and how we're going to execute whatever plan we vote on, then I don't know what else to say.
So I would just add, with the all-in piece, yes, there was an emphasis on bringing community together, but it was still orchestrated by the school district to bring community together for the all-in. So that's why when I hear community-led, it wasn't orchestrated by the community. It was the district organizing community to come together.
There were actually community stakeholders that pushed for that to even happen in the first place, because it probably wouldn't have happened. So that's what I'm saying, like, lead with your ACEs. Like, there are people out there that want to be helpful in making sure that this process unfolds the way that it needs to for children to be successful academically. So, like I said, I don't care what we call it. If the community-led part is tripping you up, then by all means, we could take that out. But I'm just saying that if the people who are part of the equation that we're making all these decisions on behalf of, if they are not at the table in how we execute this, then good luck.
Are there other questions, comments? Anyone online? If you have a question or comment. Oh. Director Petrosky.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. I just want to add a little bit on to Ms. Talafero's point that I think, again, like with the nuances or the verbiage that we're using, but I think to kind of help clear it up, and she can always correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, part of the issues that like the district has had is, and of course I'm not an employee, but like best practices for like outreach and things, they're kind of aren't any necessarily, because it depends on like what your population is and what you're trying to measure and all those kinds of things. So I think what would be most helpful, obviously for board members to help understand what communication plan means, and for the administration is to kind of like, like set that goal, whether it's like we want to reach like a representative sample of our district, because, we've talked about this several times, because we do get a lot of the same repeat folks at like public hearing, and, you know, more power to them, but we're always asking, like, how do we get other people to participate in surveys, public hearing, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and I think after this, you know, recent, all of those recent special hearings, like, we even did have people say, like, to like reporters and to board members of like, I don't really feel like coming because I feel like I'm not being listened to. And whether that's because they don't think public hearing is like the best avenue for them or something like that. So I think, you know, to kind of help clear up at least, you know, what Ms. Talaferro means by, you know, number 8, and to kind of have this discussion as a board too, at least, you know, because this is how I understand what number 8 means, but it's like really setting that goal of like, how many people do we want to reach out to and get responses from? Because it's never going to be 100%. You know, and do we want representative, you know, samples from like each like racial group or these students facing greatest challenges kind of groups that we've listed as examples? And I don't think, you know, we as a group have ever like really did that deep dive of like, what is our actual goal for participation? Because we know it needs to be better. And then we kind of just stop there and don't ask the, you know, like next set of questions. You know, that's kind of how I've been understanding and feeling about this now, the second time we've been having this conversation about like the community-led engagement, outreach, and communication plans. So Ms. Talaferro, please feel free to tell me I'm totally wrong if you're not feeling the same thing, but that's kind of where I think that we're kind of stuck on at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Petrowski. I mean, I think that, I don't think you're far off, but I think what keeps coming to mind, you know, I've visited a couple school districts now in other cities that have gone through or are currently going through similar processes of decisions to close school buildings. And one of the things that I think I've said this in previous meetings before, but one of the things that I think really hit home with me is that I think it's great when we host things at a location, whether it's at a school or in the community, for people to come, but that doesn't always yield results, right? That doesn't always yield that people, you know, it's the same people who come to the same events, the same people who come to public hearing. We keep harping on that, but I think what keeps in the back of my mind is there are still people who clearly don't know what's happening right now. And that to me, like when we're making a major changes, like what we're talking about making here, we have to be able to figure out a way to reach those people. So when I went to Oakland last summer, in the school that I visited, the school district, the administration, the superintendent and the chief of staff and all of the people with the titles, actually went out into the communities of every school that they planned to close. They went out into those communities and knocked the doors of those communities and asked or told them, here's what's going on, or, you know. And I know that there are community groups and organizations, like, for instance, the Highland Park Community Council, who have people who I've talked to that are part of that said, if you need help knocking doors, like, let us know. Like, we'll you know, take that on. You know, we'll tackle that. And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, when the community is involved and a part of the equation, they receive better. They understand better, and those are the people that can then go and reach back to the others. I think having metrics of like how many people we want to reach is good, and I get what you're saying. I think, but the people we know how many people we need to reach. It's literally everybody in the school district. Those are the people that are going to be impacted by that. And even if they don't know, when they have to go to school and they realize that the school that their kid went to isn't open anymore because we closed it, then it's going to be like, well, what happened, right? What didn't we do right, or did we do enough? And that's my biggest concern. I don't want for us to make such big decisions like this without taking into consideration the ways that we have done things, and if it has not been working or been as effective, then we need to do it differently. Does that make sense, or do I need to continue to explain myself?
No, that I think clarifies it even more. Like it 100% makes sense is like when you have community members help, like one who also support like what we're doing and what's happening or have helped change it in certain kinds of ways, like, through participation, then they can also help be, the vehicle to get information out there. So absolutely, totally makes sense. Thank you.
Are there other questions, comments? I think that, for me, the conversation has been sort of insufficient, right? The conversation about these 8 items. And I feel like these are things that we need to continue to discuss now that we have what those items are. They're things that we as a board have to have some additional discussions about. But did you?
I guess I want to just respond to what you just said. I'm curious so since we had that meeting, like, I haven't seen these 8 items. So one, I think those probably should be sent to the board, so that we can remember what the heck we talked about 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. But I do think that, I guess I'm just curious, like, how we, like, so the 8 items that we said, these are the priority for us as a board, like, how they will then, I guess, I don't know if my words right now, but how they will actually unfold into what we're going to see in a plan. I guess that's my curiosity, is like, what this needs to look like now for the administration to be able to give us that information. That's the part that I'm actually a little bit confused about in this process of like the what actually does need to happen next, and what do we need to be looking for. Is these 8 items, like I said, like, do we need to reword them so that they make more sense, or there needs to be more clarity? I'm just curious about what that needs to look like moving forward. I don't know who answers that question, because we're the board, but.
I am also curious about that. Like, that's sort of what I meant. Like, it's, I feel like we as a board need to address the 8 items and be very clear about what we will accept as evidence that we know what's that thing has been communicated, that item.
I would just say, as we shared during the previous meeting, the more clarity the board can provide to the superintendent and their team around what the 8 items being requested are, the clearer the superintendent and the team will be in terms of putting together a plan.
Director Yord.
Thank you. So yeah, with regards to these items, I mean, to me, it's clear. So 2 things. One is, Dr. Reed, you mentioned, that we need to lay out as a board, like, what the minimum viable output is for us to accept it from the administration. And I guess my understanding is, like, from all of the work that we've been doing with the Council of Great City Schools, that our job is to give these broad strokes and to provide any additional clarity that the administration needs about what exactly we mean, but it's not our job to dictate exactly what the output is. Not our job to dictate what the output is except that it needs to like address that question to a certain extent. So I guess I would throw it over to the administration is that like, are there things about those 8 items that are not clear that we as a board need to discuss? Because I feel like I have a pretty clear memory of our discussion and what we mean by those. But if the administration wants additional clarity around what we're expecting or what we mean by those things, then I would put it back on the administration to ask for clarity, because I, as a board member, feel clear on what I'm expecting based on our previous discussion. But if it's not clear to the administration, then we should clear that up.
Yeah, I was clear on the 8, except the question that I brought up about number 8. And I think at the last meeting, I think that's how we ended as well, that I'd shared that I had clarity on all of the 8 except that last piece about community-led.
Well, okay. So we, I guess our next steps will be to make sure that board members feel comfortable with the 8 items, and we'll move on from there.
Well, and just to clarify about the feel comfortable part, because we did vote on each of these 8 items to include them on this list. And so the next step is then to make a motion to vote on all these as a package, essentially, to then deliver to the administration.
So we,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
we prioritize them in the meeting, right? So I feel like as a package, we now need to figure out, is this, I mean, not is, but we need to figure out what other information we may need, and then vote on these being the actual items that the administration will respond to.
So then are we saying that we would vote, so we can't do that tonight, right? But would, then the plan would be to vote on them in the August legislative meeting? That would be, okay. So will that be added to the agenda then? Okay, thank you.
Okay, is everybody clear? Dr. Hart, were you gonna say something?
No.
Cool. Are everybody clear? Cool. Okay, well, if there are no further questions, I would like to thank Dr. Walters and Dr. Hart for their presentations, and the whole leadership team. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.